Hello, everybody. This is José Ignacio from the Uncomfortable Dialogues 2022. Thank you very much for joining us today. We value your participation and feedback. Today's dialogue is going to be about a great businessman. He's a phenomenal collaborator. Actually, his name is kind of nickname to collaboration. I'm talking about Mike Graen. He has been a phenomenal collaborator with fellow colleagues, clients, and currently he's the president and owner of a collaboration LLC. So welcome to this dialogue, Mike. How are you doing?
Jose Ignacio, thank you for the opportunity. I'm doing great.
So one question for you. Were you expecting COVID to happen?
Boy, I don't think anybody was expecting COVID to happen. I would find it hard to believe that there's a whole lot of people that anticipated that. I think that caught everybody off guard. There's a lot of bad stuff that came out of it. There was also a lot of good stuff that came out of it. We learned how to work together to solve a common problem in ways that I didn't think we ever would. And me in the retail world, I work primarily with retailers and suppliers. The creativity to get products on the shelf that people needed for everyday living was just incredible.
But can you give us one example of those things that you are doing that in the past you could have never imagined being possible?
Yeah, probably the easiest one is just the way we would get work done. Again, my primary role is working with retailers and suppliers. And since I'm located in Northwest Arkansas, obviously Walmart is where I spend quite a bit of my time. My normal time was traveling, being in a meeting at the Walmart home office, and then traveling across town to another meeting in the Walmart home office. And there was a lot of going from meeting to meeting. And what I found was there was a lot of unproductive time, both parking, walking to your car, traveling through traffic just to get to the next meeting. And I found I could reallocate that time to spend more time with people that were actually in the stores on the front line, trying to take care of customers. And the reality is that was from a business standpoint, we could do a lot more impact, really being on the front lines, doing that kind of work. I don't have to be in an office to feel like I'm getting productive work done. So from a personal perspective, I learned that the work doesn't have to be in a cubicle or in an office.
The question would be, do you think that is going to be the same way moving forward? So in 2022?
I think it really depends. Let's just talk about our healthcare. You can't do healthcare from home, right? You have to have hospitals and medical facilities. Example, there's been a decision by a lot of technology companies that say, we may never go back to working in an office environment. We can work remotely. We can be just as productive remotely as we can if we're sitting in an office together. But when you start talking about people who are running the stores and people who are replenishing the stores and people who are making sure that we have the right merchandise in the store, there's a sense of collaboration that I just don't think you're ever going to get via Zoom. You and I were talking before this thing kicked off. If I have a Zoom meeting with 20 people, I can't say, Jose, tell me, how's your family doing? What's everything's going? I mean, you can't have those conversations. You have those conversations when you're in an office environment. You don't have the liberty, unless you schedule them, to have them via Zoom, et cetera. So I believe that we are missing some of the personal connectivity about knowing what's really going on with your coworkers. Because, we're all going through something, right? There's something, everybody's got a story about what they're doing. So I think things will start to resume normal, but I don't think it's going to be everybody come back to the office. I'm not sure we're ever going to be in an environment where we were in 2018, 2019. 8 to 10 to 12 hours a day in an office and in team meetings. 5 to 6 days a week. I think those days are over forever.
I agree.
And actually, I think we've broken a lot of stereotypes saying the only way you can get work done is if we're in a team environment, we're all co-located, et cetera. We found, we've got some pretty good ways of working multifunctionally and geographically.
Which are the 2 or 3 things that you believe we have broken?
Big piece, and I hate to steal from your book, but one of the tenets of your book is facing reality. Okay. And when I think about what COVID did, there was at least some people that sort of put their head in the sand and goes, oh, this is going to go away. This is not going to be a short term. It's just a blip. It's not going to be a big deal, et cetera. I believe strong leaders have the ability to have enough curiosity to go, no, this is something different than we've ever faced before. We have to learn to deal with it. And we're going to have to make some assumptions and decisions to come out of this stronger that we went into it. I think effective leaders really faced reality, and they weren't necessarily saying they all had it figured out. And let me give you an example. I think some of the best leaders recognized that the reality was we're not going to live in the same environment after we get through this. I'm going to tell you what we know, but I'm also going to tell you what we don't know, and I'm going to be a very frequent communicator. That particular key point of facing reality was one of the best attributes of what I saw with really powerful leaders coming out of this crisis.
No, thank you very much for the comments about my book. But the truth of the matter is facing reality along with trust. So another question for you, and since you are a truly collaborator and you collaborate wherever you go, do you think that collaboration in the big scheme of things have changed?
COVID was a major problem that everybody faced at the same time. Okay. If I'm a business leader and I have my one or two problems, you may not share those one or two problems. So I may communicate my one or two problems and you go, that's nice, Mike. I'm sorry to hear that, but I don't have the same pain. Whether you like it or not, COVID created a single focus that we all had. For that reason, COVID was a great collaborator. So everybody agreed it was a problem. Now we disagreed on the approaches of how to go about it. And frankly, I think that's a good thing because we don't need to have one person just saying, here's what we're going to do. We needed a number of ideas that brainstorm and then come up with the best one and choose it. That's a good thing. We want to have different points of view of doing it. But once we decide on what we're going to do, then we just need to execute it and quit. I used to call it seeking common ground. I think oftentimes we don't seek common ground. We just say, I think we ought to do this, and nobody knows why we're trying to do this. And we end up arguing because we're really not aligned on what the goal is. The only final comment that I would give you is, I'm going to put it as a shameless plug. I think your book is fantastic. I think the 4 key points that you lay out around basically curiosity and facing reality, driving for results. And really the one that I love the most is never settle. Never settle, never be satisfied with it. Because guess what? Somebody else is figuring out how you beat you every single day. So don't get complacent. Always continue to figure out how to make yourself just a little bit better. Read, listen to podcasts, do whatever you can to make sure you're continuing to learn as this journey. And I think that's just some great wisdom that you've got for young leaders.
Well, thank you very much for the unpaid commercial, Mike. No, everybody, thank you very much for this conversation. It has been really energizing. And as I said, we will have far more conversations like this coming down the pipe.